Hey everyone, it's David with Undead Internet. A few days ago, I shared about my experience deploying and launching my first Flutter app. Since then, I wanted to kind of share some of the top 5 things that I learned through that process that wasn't necessarily related to the actual coding. I wanted to share some of the things that I found challenging, how I solved those when it comes more to the business and marketing side of the app development. I think this is a part that I found really interesting and something that I wasn't as familiar with since I had spent most of my time coding. So in this video, the plan is to go over a couple of different things, and I'll put timestamps below for all of that, but how to make and set up your icons for your app, how you can monetize the app in the app stores, how to get through app store testing requirements and actually deploying to the stores, how do you optimize your app store listing so you actually get engagement, and what other types of marketing and user acquisition steps can you take. So I hope you enjoy this video and follow along if you want to see more. Thanks. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is icons. It was one of those things that I had never really thought of until I had gotten almost completely through the process of building my app. And I had no clue how you actually made an icon for the app and how I got the icon to be something that would actually be shown. In Flutter, you have this default app icon right here. And obviously I wasn't going to deploy my app with that. So I needed to figure out a way to get an updated icon. And this is the icon that I actually ended up deploying with. So let's talk a little bit about how to create an icon, how I used AI to help me generate my icon, and the tools that I used to actually get it added into my application. Okay, so both iOS and Android have different specifications for what their best practices for creating an icon are. So of course, iOS, it's 1024 by 1024. On Play Store, it's 512 by 512. And you also have to create all these various sizes for your app, for different screen sizes and for different pixel densities, I guess. These are still things that I'm trying to understand, so I could be using the completely wrong words. But I had to figure out how to build an icon. So where I started was with everyone's favorite ChatGPT. Is this the greatest way to create an icon? No, absolutely not. But I'm a solo developer and I'm not a designer. So building an icon is something that would be more difficult for me than coding. So obviously, you can play with it and try and create something that you like. Eventually you get to an image that you want to use as your icon. ChatGPT does this a lot, where it creates this full image and then the icon is like a tile inside of it. That isn't useful and isn't really what I want. So I would actually save this image and I would take this into Canva and I would use the background remover and remove that background, and I get left with a neater tile. I might go back, in ChatGPT and try and clean up some of these sides so there's a better border or something. And then I would export this and use this as my PNG. So I'd actually export it into the starting size. I started with Google Play and did 512 by 512. And then I used the Flutter launcher icons package to actually build out all of the icons. So I got this from pub.dev and then started working through this to create the config file and actually create my icons. So you can see here, I add that to my pub spec in my development dependencies. So I have Flutter launcher icons. I was using 14.2. And this actually creates this Flutter launcher icons YAML config. And this tells Flutter launcher icons how to build out those individual icons for each platform. You can see here I have a section for creating my Play icons, how I want it to handle my iOS icons by setting that to true. And then if you wanted web, Windows, Mac OS. In the config, we have an image path that tells it where the icon image that I want it to use is. You can set different ones for different plays or for different stores. And then I have this adaptive icon background here is completely white. So that is what's actually creating this circle here. This white circle around it is this adaptive icon background. There is a bug currently that in that version, where if you don't declare this adaptive icon background, you're just going to get basically like a black circle as the icon. I don't know if this got fixed in the latest version or not, but I definitely recommend adding that, at least if you're using 14.2. Okay, so once we do this Flutter Dart Run Flutter Launcher icons generate, that will create the config file, and we can go in and add all of that information. Once we've done that, we can just run Flutter Launcher icons, and it will generate all of the corresponding icons. We can actually go and look at those in each of the different directories. So for Android, we can go here to Android. We can go to app, we can go to source, main, and then res here, and we have all of these different folders, and these all map back to the different icon sizes and dimensions needed for the app. At the same time, we can go to iOS, and in runner, and then assets, and then app icon assets, and then we have all of those different versions. One thing to also call out if you're deploying to both app stores is for the iOS store, you have to remove this alpha channel. The alpha channels aren't allowed in the app store. So just make sure you have that set to true if you're generating both icons. Just like websites have search engine optimization, app stores also have app store optimization. And this is what you need to do in order to get your app store to actually convert, or to get your app to actually convert and have people download it. There's a couple of different things that you should be thinking about with App Store optimization. We'll get into the text piece in a second, but really the first thing you should think about are these images that are displayed on your landing page. So other than your icon, these are the other things that people are checking, and you should have both an iPhone and iPad version of your screenshots for Apple, and you should have specific versions for your Play Store. So I took these screenshots on my deployed device, and I use something called app screens to help me build these out. I liked this kind of layout. I thought that was cool. It's really quick and easy. You can just kind of click, and you can actually change the layout or modify pieces of information. If you wanted to update, the title piece, just modify that here anywhere, and say that, and then you can export these for all of the different devices. Now, this is paid. I'm not sponsored. This is just what I found to use. And it's a little pricey. I only purchased the 1 month so I could use it, export everything, and then I got rid of it. I've also seen some Figma projects that people have used. So here's one that you can actually get the different screenshots, and then you have, you can get the different screenshots and you can look at those different screens. I'm not a Figma person, so I don't know how to figure this out. I'm sure I could kind of dive into this and eventually get what I'm looking for. So maybe that's a potential option for you as well. But for me, app screens really worked, was really quick, really easy, and I got all of these generated in a day. The next thing to think about is trying to get your app to actually rank on search engines. So if you look for RHIT study app, that's what my app is for. You can see here I'm actually coming up third in the search results behind some other apps on the Play Store, but the first Apple search result. So that's great. And you need to be doing that for search engine optimization. So I wrote up my description language that I used here and throughout the different stores. And then I had ChatGPT help me with optimizing my store. So I use this, copied and paste this in, and use this to help. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is monetization. I think a lot of people start building apps, obviously, especially as a solo dev, as passion projects and as hobbies. And most people probably aren't doing it to try and make a living or make money. But there's a large portion of people that are interested in making some sort of profit from their app, or they get some sort of excitement from seeing someone actually purchase something that they've built. So you need to think about the different types of monetization and business models you can deploy in your apps. I really like this page from Apple that kind of talks about the different business models, which are free, premium, paid, and paymium. So free is exactly what it sounds like. You can download the app for free from the app stores. It doesn't cost you any money to use it, and you can just start using it right away. How do free apps tend to make money? Well, they tend to either sell your data that they're collecting. You have to talk about this in your data use and sharing as you're deploying your app, or they have some sort of advertising built into the app. So you'll either get banner ads or you'll get full page window ads between screens. So they're really making money off of you as a user using the app. They need people to get into the app, reuse the app over and over again to keep driving up that ad sales. The next method we have is the freemium model. So this is where it's free to download and start using the app, and there may be in-app purchases or additional downloads and digital goods that cost some sort of money. So this is through those in-app purchases. Just like any other model, in-app purchases, the app stores themselves do get a cut of this money as well. We'll talk about that percentage towards the end of this, but it is another one of those things. It's really can be subscriptions, non-renewing subscriptions, buying some sort of token within the economics of your app. That's freemium. Paid is probably what I consider the simplest. It's just that. It's a paid one-time subscription or one-time fee to download the app and start using it. This is the model that I opted to go with my application as I was trying to figure out monetization, mainly because I didn't want to have to figure out how to implement ads. I wasn't quite sure how to build those parts out just yet. So that's where I started. There's also some other combinations of paid and freemium, this paymium concept as well, where you can pay to download the app, and then there's additional bonus features that cost money as well. According to RevenueCat, the median monthly revenue an app generates in 12 months is about $50. And it's not really surprising. People aren't making tons of money off of building applications. There is a huge difference between apps that are at the top level of revenue generation versus apps that are at the lower amount. And there are tools to help you monetize through that freemium or free section. Google AdMob is a way that you can add ads to your applications. There's a Flutter SDK and Flutter package to implement that. It does require setting up different items, registering your, creating an AdMob account, registering your app with the AdMob. It has different deployment considerations that you have to take into account. The thing that I've heard the most, I haven't tried, but this is something that I plan on looking into, is RevenueCat, not sponsored by RevenueCat. I don't even know if it's any good, but it is a SaaS essentially to manage all of your revenue in your application. It sounds like they don't really have a take of your payment until you exceed a certain threshold, so it could still be useful for smaller developers. So let's talk about how much I've actually made in between the two different app stores so far. My app's been deployed for about a month now. And I've had 65 sales on the App Store for iOS and made about $324. I think this is, absolutely insanely good. I'm thrilled about this amount. And then looking over on Google Play, I've only had about 18 sales, about $72 in gross sales. I have heard that there's a big difference in iOS users versus Play users. I'm willing to kind of spend on that pay model, and it is interesting to see the difference in these two. But you have to remember, that's not how much money I'm actually making off of these applications. Both iOS and Play Store take 30% of all your sales, whether that comes from the direct fee for the app or from your subscriptions, your in-app purchases. So you are only making about 70 cents on the dollar for everything that you sell. So right now my app is $4.99 in both app stores. Let's say I wanted to make my app free going forward. That's still an option. I could switch my method and make it a free app. But you'll notice that once I do this, I can never go back to making it a paid application. So really thinking about which model of payment you want to use is really important. Okay, so you've decided your business model, you've got your icons made, you've done your app store optimization, and you're ready to deploy your app to the app stores. The next big barrier that you'll kind of hit comes to do with testing. Both of the app stores handle testing a little bit differently. With Google, you have to actually do a closed testing before you can apply to have your application be pushed to production. And what a closed test means is you need to have at least 12 testers in your testing program that runs for 14 days continuously. So if you only get 12 and someone drops out of the program, the days reset until you have 12 testers. Inside the dashboard, you'll have options for internal testing where you can have people signed up, and closed testing. You need to make sure you run a closed testing in order to meet this. The best way to do this that I found, because I actually started off by like having a CSV that I uploaded of testers, that was not very effective. What I ended up doing is creating a Google group specifically for my test. I made this to where it was public and anyone could join. I then associated that Google group with my testing track. So I have an alpha testing track here, and then I can associate that with my testers. And now anyone that I share that adds themselves to the Google group can access the Android link and download and install that. I had like about 33 people join. The way I was able to get those testers was by pushing this out to the Android closed testing group. So you'll find people in here that will do like test for test. You can see they're all sharing their Google group and the link to their store. I also reached out to some like specific communities that were just for the people that my app was targeted towards, and that was able to help me get testers. iOS handles this a little bit differently. You can apply for testing, and then once you have that test version, you can apply for testing. And once you have that test version, it goes through internal review, and then that lasts for a few days and kind of like move statuses. And after it's all been approved by Apple, they'll actually allow you to deploy it to production. You don't actually have to, you can run test flight and have people join testing, but it doesn't work quite the same way as Google as far as like the amount of people that you need to review, the length of time it takes. I think it took me about twice as long to get everything reviewed and approved on Google than it did for iOS. I guess the other thing to also call out is this is all because I'm using personal accounts for both my developer programs. I think if you pay for the company-based ones, you don't have to wait those 14 days. Okay, the last thing I wanted to talk about is marketing. After you've deployed your apps and you're trying to get users and actually get some acquisition, what do? How does that actually work? That's probably the one that I'm trying to figure out the most right now. I'm still working on figuring it out. What I did was first I built a web page. So it's a real simple site that I built in Svelte. It's got a couple of things. I have a hero section that tries to call out, to download the app, you can learn more, get some of the features. We have some stats and try to lend some credibility. And then I have links out. To the app stores. We have access to our privacy section. The download also takes you back down to the download area. And then we have some resources where I have some blog articles where I'm trying to push some search engine optimization and actually get people to come to the site. And if you look at that search engine optimization, I mean, it's just starting to kind of work. I've only been working on those blog articles for about a week or so. We're getting some of the right queries as far as terms that I'm looking for, generating not a lot of clicks. But I think if we keep working on this, that it should start trying to convert. By and far, the biggest push from visits to the site has definitely been kind of my campaigns of posting this on Reddit and LinkedIn. So I shared it on my personal and professional LinkedIn that I had built this. I have made a couple of different posts on Reddit about the site, and that has definitely helped. And you can see that that's driven a lot of the sales and product views have come from web referrers and app referrers. The app was at in the top 20 for a little bit, so I think there was a lot of browsing activity from the App Store during that time, but overall the vast majority has come from those links externally. And really the moment that I've stopped all of this, like these few days I was really pushing it and talking about it, now that I've slowed that down, I'm starting to see it kind of plateau and stop. I think I'm going to continue to work on building out the site and trying to get the site to rank higher and continue some of the the App Store optimization and see if that can help drive this to where it can be a little more passive and I'm not having to link it out. I did have a huge bump early. Someone posted it in a Facebook chat, and like, so through this whole period right here, I was getting a lot through LinkedIn and other areas from where that was posted. I think that optimization part is definitely still something I'm working on and trying to actually drive traffic to download the site. So yeah, that's been 5 things that I've learned during this whole process that aren't necessarily the coding and development side, but that really came with actually deploying an app to the App Store. This was my first application or mobile application that I've ever built. First one that I built with Flutter, for sure. First time I've used Flutter and Dart. I found the overall experience to be a little daunting at first. Once you learn